makes an older man cocksure, and a younger man secure, makes an older woman younger, and a younger woman hunger. Gin, sing, sing, gin, sing a little song and swing. Sing a little song, gin, sing. Sing a little song and swing.
Hi, I'm Jim Munich. Over the next hour or so, we're going to look for some wild edible plants and useful herbs. Also, we're going to learn how to cook them here in the bush and in the elegance of your own home. So let's get started. You can find many useful plants right here near the water, like cattails.
There are two species of cattails common to North America. Co-author Jim Duke points out the major difference is in the wideness of the leaf. Broad-leafed, Typha latifolia, narrow-leafed, Typha angustifolia. Cattails are a versatile foodstuff. The roots, new shoots, and flowering heads are edible. In the spring, simply find the shoots, reach down into the mud, and pull. Peel off the outer leaves, and underneath is the tender tongue of cattail. Sauté this delicate core for 3 to 5 minutes in butter. A bit deeper in the soil is the long root where the cattail was attached. The root core is an excellent source of starch. Eat the starch raw as quick energy food. Or better yet, crush the roots in cold water and leach out the starch. The starch may be added to soups and stews as a thickener. About mid-June, the male flowering head of the cattail, located above the female flower spike, may be stripped into a plastic bag. This high-protein flower extender will keep in your freezer for 8 months. Or use it immediately. Here's a recipe. Add the male parts, the pollen, anthers, and stamens to your favorite pancake mix. About 1 cup of cattail parts to 2 cups of mix. Also try pollen and female parts in cookies, muffins, biscuits, and bread recipes. The young female bloom spike may be cooked like corn on the cob. Boil or steam in lightly salted water. Cook till tender. Butter, excuse my fingers, and eat it hot. Without endorsing herbal medicine, Dr. Duke and I report the chopped roots of cattail have been applied to burns and minor cuts. For more health and herbal tips, read The Herbalist by Joseph Meyer. Okay, back to the bush. Here's watercress. Collect watercress from a clean water source, a highland stream or a free-flowing spring. Watercress, Nasturtium officinale, is a pungent, spicy green, an important ingredient in V8 cocktail juice, and one of the most useful greens known to humankind. In the north, it's available 10 months a year. South of the Mason-Dixon line, it's a year-round food. Scramble chopped watercress with eggs, stuff a pita sandwich, sauté it, or make watercress soup. One favorite of mine is smoked bass stuffed with watercress. After washing the body cavity, stuff the fish with watercress. Season to taste, then bake or smoke the fish. The Wild Palate by Nancy and Walter Hall has several other exciting watercress recipes. Do you know what this is? Often this green slime covers ponds in midsummer. Upon close inspection, the green water cover is a small plant called duckweed from the family Lemnaceae. The root hairs siphon nutrients from the water. Duckweed is edible. Blend it in your favorite soup recipe. The Chinese use Lemnaceae to treat hypothermia. It also relieves flatulence and is used to treat acute kidney infections. For more medicinal uses of duckweed and other herbs, read Dr. Duke's Handbook of Medicinal Plants from Quarterman Press. Next, reed shoots. Reed grass, Phragmites communis, is found around the margins of streams and in wet lowlands. The root of reed grass, like cattail roots, may be harvested and leached of its starch. The first shoots of spring may be eaten raw, but are best steamed until tender. Simply chop the new shoots to a manageable size, place them in a steamer. They are ready to eat in 5 minutes. In the fall, seeds may be stripped, crushed, and cooked with berries, or ground into flour, or cooked in whole gruels and soups.
This is wild rice, Zizania aquatica.
Wow, these scientific names are tongue twisters. To avoid stumbling along here, from now on I'll just give you the common names of the plants. If you want to get technical, refer to the alphabetical genus species index accompanying this tape. Anyway, wild rice is a tall grass found growing in shallow, clean water. The seeds may be harvested in August and September. Timing is critical. Check your stand of wild rice often. Mature seeds drop off easily. Return every other day to maximize the harvest. To thresh the husk from the seed, use a rolling pin. Simply roll back and forth over the grain. The simplest way I know to cook wild rice is to boil 2 cups of water lightly salted, enter a cup of wild rice, cover and simmer for 35 minutes. The large green plants dominating the waterway here are yellow pond lilies or spatterdock. The rootstock may be cut free and boiled. Although it smells like an apple, it's a bitter pill to swallow, even after 2 or 3 changes of water when cooking. The flower blooms through the summer. The primitive-looking fruit bears what I think is the only edible part of this plant. Inside here are the seeds. The seeds may be dried and ground into flour, or prepare them like popcorn. Place the seeds in a popcorn popper. Cover the machine so the small seeds don't become airborne. The results are usually disappointing. The seeds simply pop open, but they're palatable with salt and butter.
The fragrant water lily is edible. Note the plate-like leaves and floating blossoms. Pioneers ate the unfurled leaves and the unopened flower buds. The flower petals may be eaten with salad greens.
Arrow arum, for all intents and purposes, is not edible. Some may argue the point, saying the burning alkaloids may be dried out of the seeds and roots. Even so, the bitter taste of the prepared plant is unfit to eat.
Keep in mind, the arrow arum flower and mature fruits are also poisonous. Arrowhead, or wapatu, Sagittaria latifolia, has an edible tuber attached to its root.
Don't confuse this plant with arrow arum. Arrowhead, or wapatu, leaves are palmate. That is, all veins run out from a single source like fingers on the palm of a hand. Arrow arum has pinnate veins. Note how veins run out from the midrib that dissects the leaf. Anyway, the arrowhead tuber may be harvested in the fall, winter, or spring. Over here, just popping out of the water is pickerel weed. The leaves and seeds can be eaten. The leaves are most tender in the spring while they are unfurling beneath the water. Cook it as a pot herb. The flower petals may be added to salads.
Pickerel weed veins spread from a single source at the base of the leaf and converge at the top.
Swamp dock is a survival green, too tough to eat when mature, but it may be steamed or boiled when it first emerges.
Several species of dock, swamp, sour, curled, and yellow, produce edible seeds in late summer.
There are several species of wild rose. Their flowers give rise to the famous fruit rosehip, an excellent source of vitamin C available in late summer and autumn. Rose petals and rose leaves may be dried and used for tea. Too delicate for my taste, however. But rose petals are excellent in summer floral salads like this one.
American elder thrives along the edges of streams, bogs, and other wetlands. Summer flowers may be batter fried or eaten raw, but be cautious. Learn to distinguish elder flowers from the poisonous water hemlock flowers. Use a field guide and forage with a knowledgeable botanist. Elderberries may be made into jelly or fermented into wine, but my favorite is elderberry apple pie.
You need 2 cups of elderberries, a cup of blackberries or a cup of wild grapes with the seeds removed. Mix the berries with 2 cups of cooking apples. Stir in 3 tablespoons of brown sugar or maple syrup, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a half teaspoon of nutmeg. Pour the contents into a pie shell. I sprinkle a pinch of flour over each layer as a thickener. Cook the pie topless or cover it with a crust. Elderberry pie is a simple recipe that pleases those who aren't always easy to please. Other elderberry dishes and wild fruit dishes may be found in the excellent resource by Nancy Turner and Adam Sezwinski, Edible Wild Fruits and Nuts of Canada.
Okay, let's take a break from our nation's waterways and look at some wild berries and some very delicious desserts.
Wild strawberries may be found in meadows and open woods. Harvest time is June. A favorite strawberry recipe combines 1 whole seedless orange, peel and all, with a cup of strawberries and a cup of blackberries or mulberries. Add an egg, a half cup of vegetable oil, blend the ingredients, then mix a cup and a half of flour with 3/4 cup of sugar, a teaspoon of baking powder, teaspoon of baking soda, and a teaspoon of salt. Add a half cup of raisins and a cup of nuts. Black walnuts are your best choice. Make large muffins. Bake at 375 degrees for about 20 minutes. Here's all the energy and protein you need to kick off a day. And remember, any of the wild berries I described may be substituted for the strawberries in this recipe. Another common wild fruit of late spring and early summer is the raspberry. Red and black raspberries may be found along the fringes of woods and the margins of fields. Often near your raspberry source are blackberries. There are several species. Blackberries ripen in mid and late summer. Leaves are alternate, compound with 3 to 5 leaflets. Here's a low-calorie, high-nutrition breakfast made with raspberries or blackberries, or both. Mix 2 cups of berries with 2 cups of low-fat, sweetened vanilla yogurt. Add a dash of milk and blend. Here's a wonderful ice cream substitute with only half the sugar and fat. Blueberries are available from early summer through early autumn. There are several species of blueberries found in highlands, lowlands, open lands, and wooded areas. For a simple blueberry treat, pour a bowl of frozen blueberries, then cover them with half and half cream or whole milk. If dieting, use low-fat milk. This frozen dessert sets up quickly and is ready to eat, a refreshing, cooling, low-sugar, world-class treat.
In woodlands and along the margins of woods, you may find gooseberries and currants. There are several species. This dangerous-looking but harmless berry is ready for harvest in midsummer.
Not far from the gooseberries are mulberries. There are red, white, and black varieties. Do not eat the unripened fruits and leaves because they are slightly hallucinogenic. But the ripened fruits are very edible. Mulberries, gooseberries, and currants may be combined or used separately to make fudge. Gently cook a cup and a half of gooseberries, or in this case mulberries, until hot. Mash the berries through a fine sieve to separate the juice. Mix in 2 cups of sugar, add 3 tablespoons of butter, then reheat slowly to dissolve the butter. Bring the pan to a boil over medium heat. Do not stir. Let the mixture form a hot, soft ball between 235 and 240 degrees on a candy thermometer. Cool till warm. Then whip the mixture with a wooden spoon for a few seconds. Press the fudge into a buttered pan and cut pieces. Eat immediately or cover and refrigerate. When serving kids, have lots of room and sufficient water. Wild grapes, the leaves and fruits are edible. They are found nationwide, clinging and climbing trees, walls, and fences. Wild grapes may be dried in the sun for about 3 days to make raisins. Remember, grapes may be used in the elderberry pie mentioned earlier. Another abundant berry is the sumac berry. Here is the flower of dwarf or winged sumac. These red berries of staghorn sumac may be collected, then stripped from their heads. Discard the stems and heads, then soak the cotton-covered berries in hot water to extract a lemonade-like drink. Add sugar and serve. An excellent field piece for discovering these wild fruits and many others is the Field Guide to North American Edible Wild Plants by Elias and Dykman, available from Outdoor Life Books. In quick order, here are some wild useful herbs that you can use in the home, and you can grow them around the home. As you can plainly see, the ubiquitous plants in my lawn are dandelions. My colleague, Jim Duke, once ate 100 dandelion flowers every day for a week to see if the vitamin A would turn him yellow. It didn't. Dr. Duke also has a taste for the seeds and the pickled root. All dandelion parts, leaves, crowns, roots, and flower petals are edible. The seeds are a favorite food of goldfinch. Dandelion leaves are best in early spring before they flower. Older, bitter leaves may be improved by soaking them for an hour or so in a bowl of water with a teaspoon or so of baking soda mixed in. Dandelion leaves are high in A, C, and B vitamins. The crown of the plant, the whitish area just below the leaves and above the roots, may be deep fried. First, coat crowns in your favorite tempura batter. Then deep fry. Try it. You'll be glad you did. Dandelion tea made from roots has been used as a laxative, blood purifier, and diuretic. Recent evidence suggests dandelion tea may rejuvenate the alcoholic's liver. Another interesting source book about herbal pharmaceuticals is the Barefoot Doctor's Manual from Running Press. Chickweed is a common ground cover and excellent food. It may be eaten raw or cooked. Dr. Duke tells me chickweed is a cure for obesity, but alas, like so many herbal remedies, he has used it with little success. Anyway, sprinkle the flowers in with the leaves when preparing a salad. Stew chickweed with rabbit, chicken, or beef. Just add 4 cups of flowers, leaves, and stems to the pot. Mix in your favorite stewing herbs. Enter the bird, bunny, or in this case, beef roast. Then brace yourself for a magnificent feast. We're doing this one pit style. Place the Dutch oven in a hole, cover it with cattail leaves, and 2 or 3 inches of muck or earth. Build a fire over the pit, then cook lunch over the fire. The roast underneath will be done for dinner. Along the fringes of my lawn in the shady areas are violets, several varieties. Violets are cultivated in France for perfume. This is an incredible edible. Leaves are high in vitamin C and A. I use both the leaves and flowers in salads. Keep in mind, late-season plants without flowers may be confused with inedible greens. Play it safe. Forage this plant only when it's in bloom. Did you ever step barefoot on one of these? Ouch! This is bull thistle, a biennial. These barbed leaves are the first year's growth. Roots may be boiled and then sliced and stir-fried. Wear gloves when harvesting roots and leaves. Strip off the spines with a knife. Without the armor, the leaves may be eaten raw or cooked. The flavor is similar to celery. Harvest leaves in both the spring and fall. In summer, the flower petals may be sprinkled over salads. According to Duke, some folks steam, then eat the outer green bract around the flower heads like artichokes. The Chinese use thistle teas and decoctions to treat appendicitis, internal bleeding, and inflammations. Plantain is another favorite medicinal of the Chinese.
Barefoot doctors use the whole plant in a tea to clear fever and promote healing. Plantain is best harvested before this flower stalk appears. New leaves keep coming all year. Use young, tender leaves in salads. Soak older leaves in dilute salt water for 10 minutes, then steam till tender. The dried seeds may be eaten whole or ground into flour. According to Duke, seeds and their husks may serve as a gentle laxative. Lamb's quarters are found in fields, on waste ground, and in just about everyone's garden. A healthy lamb's quarters plant may climb 3 feet tall. But it's the young, tender leaves and tips that produce the best salad greens. For a nutritious snack, add seeds to your favorite bread or muffin mix. As a pot herb, boil lamb's quarters for 5 minutes with mustard greens and dandelion leaves. Over here, along the edge of the fence, is gill over the ground, or ground ivy. Available all year long, the leaves may be dried and steeped in hot water for about 10 minutes. Some like this tea, not me. Not much to it. Henbit looks like ground ivy, but is an erect plant. It's found around the fringe of fields and the edges of yards. The young leaves and flowers of spring may be added to salads. Cook the whole shoot in vegetable soups and stews. Pokeweed, or simply poke, may be found growing on waste ground almost anywhere in the United States. The very young leaves, as they first emerge from the ground, are edible, but only after cooking them in at least 2 changes of water. The root, stems, and berries of this plant are poisonous. Be cautious with this plant. Don't eat poke unless you are foraging with a knowledgeable botanist. I'd like to pause here for a moment and remind you that there are many poisonous plants and poisonous lookalikes. Of course, poison ivy is a common and obvious nuisance. Note the 3 leaves, the climbing vine, and in late summer, these berries. As mentioned a moment ago, most parts of pokeweed are non-edible. Likewise for the water plant Aro arum. Other poisonous plants include iris, Jimson weed or datura, skunk cabbage, bloodroot, horse nettle, water hemlock, jack in the pulpit, mayapple, liverwort, and red osier here. There are many excellent field guides that have poisonous plants and poisonous lookalikes in them. Here are a few I recommend. 100 Poisonous Plants of Maryland by Stephen Hill and Peggy Duke. Also, there's Dr. Duke's Handbook of Medicinal Plants from CRC Press. And Edible Wild Plants by Elias and Dykeman from Outdoor Life Books. Okay, back to my yard. This is pepper grass. As a kid, I used to munch on these seeds. You may add them to a salad. The young leaves, when they first emerge, are edible but bitter. Use them sparingly. Wild asparagus is typically found along roadsides and fence rows. Best pick it away from the road where it won't be tainted with benzene, lead, oil, and other auto pollutants. Discover your wild asparagus crop in the fall when the large adult plants are easiest to see. Mark the spot, then come looking for the good stuff next spring, about mid to late May. Cinquefoil grows in my yard and may be found in fields and on waste ground. The leaves make an herbal tea that, taste-wise, ranks right down there with rosehip and ground ivy. Fact is, pioneers used the bitter tea as a gargle and mouthwash. Wild carrot is a biennial. the second year's growth gives rise to the flower many call Queen Anne's lace. The root of this plant smells and tastes like domestic carrot, but is tough and woody. Make certain before using wild carrot that it has the characteristic carrot smell. There are some poisonous look-alikes, but only carrot smells like carrot. Wild carrot is good in vegetable stew. It imparts the carrot flavor. And if you eat carefully around the root's pithy core, there is substantial soft tissue to devour. Burdock is a common garden nuisance. In June or July, dig the first year's root of this biennial. Peel the roots and cut them into thin strips. Boil the strips in water. If bitter, use 2 changes of water. Serve hot under a pat of butter and a dollop of sour cream. A mock celery soup may be made with the young leaf stems of burdock. Add burdock, wild carrots, and wild onions to chicken stock. Cook, season, and serve. Jerusalem artichoke, a member of the sunflower family, produces a large edible tuber. This plant may be found along roadsides. Add the tubers to your garden and you will have a substantial food source that will continue to reproduce year after year. Harvest the Jerusalem artichoke roots in the fall, spring, or winter. The tuber may be sliced and eaten raw. It has a taste similar to water chestnut. This plant is worth looking for. Other members of the sunflower genus bear edible seeds in late summer and early autumn. This is chicory, a common resident along the shoulders of rural roads. The young leaves are edible, although bitter. Down New Orleans way, they dry the root of chicory, grind it, and blend it with coffee. White or weeping willow here and black willow here, sometimes called marsh willow, have received much notoriety lately as a medicinal. According to Dr. Duke, salicin from willow may have a better anti-inflammatory action than aspirin. Willow tea may be made from a sprig, or in this case a bundle of willow sprigs. Drop the willow cuttings into hot water, steep for 1 minute. Here is a relaxing brew that may soothe a backache or take the edge off an aching head. But be careful. Too much salicin may be dangerous. Consult your physician before trying this tea. Stinging nettle is a common resident along roadside, fields, and wooded areas. The fine hairs contain a skin irritant. This chemical is destroyed when the plant is cooked. Stinging nettle is an excellent pot herb. Cook it with wild carrot, wild leeks, and dandelion greens with a little soy sauce. Older plants may be boiled. Throw away the plants and use the nettle stock for soups or refreshing vitamin-rich drink. Don't confuse the hairy stinging cells of nettle with the thorny and poisonous horse nettle, a member of the potato family. Mullein is often seen growing in vacant lots. A close-up look and behold the Velcro of the bush. I use these hairy leaves to rub out the pain of stinging nettle. Native Americans line their moccasins with the warm, woolly leaf. A tea from the leaves and flowers of mullein has been used to treat coughs, colds, and bronchitis. This is wood sorrel. Leaves, flowers, and seeds have a sour taste. Add flowers, seeds, and leaves to salads, or brew them into a beverage. A few words of caution, however. Use this plant sparingly. Excessive consumption may inhibit the absorption of calcium in the body. Sheep sorrel, like wood sorrel, may also inhibit calcium absorption. Wild chives grow in fields or disturbed land. Relocate chives to your yard. it will come up faithfully year after year. The whole plant may be chopped into salads, soups, chili, and stews. Likewise for wild garlic, if you are lucky enough to find this elusive plant. There's some evidence that eating wild onions, wild garlic, or wild chives may reduce blood pressure and lower blood sugar. In summer, you can spot daylilies growing along rural roads. Dig up the bulbs and transplant them to clean soil away from auto pollution. The flowers may be added to a summer salad. Buds may be steamed, boiled, or deep fried. Serve with butter or cheese sauce. Firm root tubers may be harvested all year. Add them raw to salads or cook like a potato. A word of caution: use this plant when in bloom. Early growth closely resembles the poisonous iris plant. But the yellowish tubers of daylilies are distinctive. Common milkweed is sometimes eaten as a vegetable, but the sap contains toxins. Cattle and sheep have died from milkweed poisoning. So Dr. Duke and I discourage experimentation with this plant. Ground cherries are another garden-side nuisance or attraction, depending on your point of view. Sometimes called lantern plant because of this lantern-like husk, ground cherries may be harvested when ripe, usually August or September. Anytime earlier, and they may make you sick. Like other members of the nightshade family, it's probably best to avoid this fruit. Goat's beard looks like a large dandelion. The root is edible, first boiled, then fried. Not that good, not worth the trouble. I always get one or two prickly lettuce plants sprouting up my lawn. A couple hundred years ago, they distilled a very weak opium-like sedative from this plant. It was used as a cough suppressant. The blanched leaves are bitter. They definitely won't impress dinner guests. Red clover here has rose purple flower petals that may be eaten raw in salads or batter fried. Skilled herbalists have used this plant to treat cuts, burns, and skin problems such as psoriasis. Spiderwort, like red clover, is common along roadsides. The young shoots and leaves may be eaten, but are very mucilaginous, or as my daughter puts it, they're slimy. The flowers may be added to summer salads. They are pungent, strong-tasting, however. Comfrey is a herb that takes naturally to a pot. Found on low ground and moist places, the tender young leaves may be cooked like kale or spinach. Keep in mind the comfrey leaves contain traces, perhaps insignificant, of a carcinogen, but by all means do not eat the roots. Let's close this section with a member of the mint family, peppermint. Peppermint, like spearmint, may be found along the margins of marshy lowlands, streams, and lakes. It has a square stem, like most members of the mint family, with opposite leaves that are sharply serrated. Identify the plant by crushing the leaves and stem. Note the strong aromatic odor of mint. The leaves may be used to flavor cold drinks and hot teas. Okay, before we move on to a deep, dark woods, here are some foraging rules you should adhere to. Number 1, before eating any wild plants, study with an expert, or take the plant to an expert for identification. Rule 2, after positive identification of a plant, taste only a small amount of it. This precaution may protect you from allergic reaction. 3, beware of the carrot family. Water hemlock and other members of this family are extremely poisonous. Learn to distinguish hemlock here from American elder here before eating elderberries. Dr. Duke and I do not endorse herbal medication or medical self-diagnosis. Forage where plants are abundant. Learn to transplant plants to areas where they have disappeared. Over the next 20 minutes, we're going to follow this guy into a wet woods. 3 plants of a wet woods you are bound to stumble over in the spring are hepatica, skunk cabbage, and marsh marigolds. These 3 plants are inedible, but have been used for years and years as herbal pharmaceuticals. Hepatica, or American liverwort, is one of the first flowers to bloom in March or April. Small amounts of the roots and leaves of this plant have been used to treat indigestion and disorders of the kidney, gallbladder, and liver. Beware, however, large amounts of hepatica are poisonous. Use of this plant is reserved for a skilled herbalist. Skunk cabbage smells like its name. The flower is a primitive spathe covering a spadix. Skunk cabbage roots are occasionally used as medicinal. First, they must be thoroughly dried to reduce the burning oxalate to harmless crystals. Herbalists make an infusion of this tea from the dried root. According to Malcolm Stewart in his book, The Encyclopedia Herbs and Herbalism, skunk cabbage root is most commonly used as a mild sedative. Be advised, the plant is poisonous, and juice from the fresh plant may cause skin blistering and will severely burn the digestive tract if eaten. Again, only experts should handle this plant. The leaves of marsh marigolds, sometimes called American cowslip, have been eaten as a pot herb in the spring before the flowers open. But this is risky practice. They must be cooked in several changes of water because they are very bitter. For my money, not worth the time or trouble. In view of the caustic nature of this plant, it's best to avoid it. Jack in the pulpit, or Indian turnip, is found in rich soils, generally a woods or a shady lowland. Like skunk cabbage, this plant contains calcium oxalate and is not edible raw. Indians used to slice jack in the pulpit roots and dry them, deactivating the calcium oxalate. The dried root was then sliced, cooked, and eaten like potato chips. Mayapple is another common plant of the woods that, for the most part, is poisonous. The fruit is edible in the summer when soft and ripe. Knowledgeable foragers carefully gather the ripe fruit and use it in pie fillings and jellies. Remember, this plant is poisonous except for the pulp of the ripe fruit. This very young ground cover is jewelweed or spotted touch-me-not. In the spring, jewelweed may be eaten raw, steamed, sautéed, or stewed. The summer flowers may be candied and deep-fried. The soft parts of jewelweed, the flowers, stems, and leaves, may be rubbed over your skin as an antidote to poison ivy or stinging nettle. Here's a delightful herb. Spring beauties bloom in May in rich, wet woods. Note the delicate cluster of flowers and lance-like leaves. Native Americans and pioneers loved this edible. At the root is a small tuber called a corm. Peel the outer skin off before eating. This is great trail food, but like so many spring flowers, your window of opportunity is short. Spring beauties are available for only a few weeks in April and May. Come June or July, there's not a trace of the plant above ground. Next, a couple of lookalikes. Solomon seal here, and false Solomon seal here. Both plants are said to have edible parts. True Solomon seal has flower umbels in the notch of each leaf. False Solomon seal has a flower spike at the top of the plant. The young shoots of false Solomon seal are said to be edible, but berries may be emetic. That is, they may cause you to vomit. Rootstocks of false Solomon seal are inedible. Young shoots of true Solomon seal are fair as a trail food, steamed or cooked with mixed vegetables. This plant should be judiciously sampled. Large quantities may be harmful. Inside each fruit are several seeds that may be transplanted into your herb garden. This is a beautiful herbal that needs little care and has a different look each season. For naturalists who would like to start a wildflower garden, Harry Phillips' book, Growing and Propagating Wildflowers, is a must. Available from the University of North Carolina Press. Bloodroot was used by Native Americans to produce a red dye. The dried root was also used to induce vomiting. But ingesting bloodroot may be fatal. Never eat this plant. Also, avoid getting the red juices of the plant in open wounds, a caustic and painful mistake. There are several varieties of Trillium. The leaves and flowers are said to be edible, but for my taste, members of this genus are too pretty to eat. Trillium and related species are excellent transplants. Get permission from the landowner, then dig up the entire plant with at least an 8-inch earth ball. Locate in the shade in rich soil. Not far from water, usually on a shady bank in a wet woods, you may find ramps or wild leeks. Here's a premium quality food. The leaves, stems, and bulbs are edible, marvelous in stews and soup, or simply sautéed in the wild, in this case with cattail shoots. Good. Fiddleheads are the unfurled leaves of ferns. They may be eaten raw or steamed. I prefer them sautéed or deep-fried. A word of caution, however. Some ferns, such as bracken fern, may cause stomach cancer. Fiddleheads may also lead to thiamine problems. Best avoid these plants. This is wild ginger. In May, the primitive flower emerges. The root may be crushed and added to salad dressings. When dried and grated, it is an adequate substitute for oriental ginger. For the daring gourmet, try boiling the root until tender, then simmer in maple syrup for an unusual candy treat. Over here is wild anise, commonly called sweet cecily. Note how sweet cecily is similar in appearance to water hemlock. Get expert identification before using this plant. The root of this plant has a sweet anise odor. Use the root to spice up cooked greens. I've heard the leaves are occasionally eaten by diabetics as a sugar substitute. Partridge berry is a tiny creeper found at the base of trees in wet woods of the northern and central U.S. and Canada. The bland berry ripens to bright red in late summer. It's a tasteless trail food with little or no bulk, a hard-time survival berry, but available all winter long. In the spring, you can find rue anemone on high and dry wooded areas. At the base of the spring bloomer is a spicy root tuber. I have used this tuber in soups and munched it on the trail. There is little documentation as to its edibility, so let prudence be your guide. Don't eat rue anemone until authoritative information becomes available. Wintergreen. There are several species of this plant in North America. This is creeping wintergreen or checkerberry found in the eastern half of the U.S. The flower forms an edible berry that turns from white to red by late summer. They may be available all winter, if not gobbled up by late-season foragers. Add the summer fruits to pancake and muffin mixes. The leaves make a delicate tea or munch them as a breath freshener. Cleavers or goosegrass may be found in woodlands, along streams, and in vacant lots. Also called bedstraw, cleaver leaves may be added to salads in early spring, but tough, mature leaves must be cooked. During April and May, in many wooded areas or old apple orchards, morel mushrooms may be harvested. But be careful. As you know, many mushroom species are deadly. Forage with an expert. Seen here are small gray morels. The gray and black variety here may be eaten raw or prepared in a million other ways. The giant puffball is found on rich soil in shady areas. It may be cooked like an edible mushroom. But before eating, cut it open and be certain its flesh is white and not yellow. Also avoid this plant if gills or a rudimentary stem are inside. The trout lily, or dog-tooth violet, has mottled leaves. The young leaves may be boiled for 10 minutes and eaten, but we can't guarantee they are salubrious. The real beauty of the trout lily is in the eyes of the beholder. As a foodstuff, it's best left alone. Wild oats look similar to a trout lily. The early shoots may be eaten, but I recommend you use them sparingly. Toothwort has a spicy, pungent rootstock. There are several species in North America. Eat the roots of toothwort as a trail food, or chop the root into garden salads. Springcress is a slender, erect plant with white flowers found in woods and open areas in early spring. Use the young leaves and flowers in salads. The rootstock may be grated, a spicy horseradish substitute.
American ginseng is a prized medicinal. Saponins, the active ingredients of ginseng root, have perplexing properties. Some saponins raise blood pressure, others lower it. Some raise blood sugar, some lower it. Obviously, more research is needed. Evening primrose is found on wasteland bordering wooded areas. The flowers, roots, and seeds are edible. Plant parts contain gamma-linolenic acid, or GLA. Some folks claim GLA may cure or prevent acne, alcoholism, obesity, and schizophrenia. I don't know about that, but evening primrose flowers taste great and are less filling. Dip flowers in egg whites. Roll them in sugar, then deep fry. Hey, we must be near the end of the tape. This old groundnut is about to winter over. The plant is a climbing vine, a legume that grows in thickets and wet places. The tuber is 15% protein. Be certain to look up groundnut in your field guide. Note, the seeds may be prepared like lentils. As we leave the woods, it appears at this late date we failed to see the trees for the forest. Here's the rub. It's going to take a whole nother tape to show you the trees, shrubs, fruits, berries, and nuts that come free from the woods. There's sassafras with its aromatic root, the stuff great tea is made from. And there's pawpaw. It produces a substantial, delicious fruit. The woods also harbors cherry trees, barberries, wild apples, and many, many more delicious fruits and nuts. If you'd like to know more about our new video identifying trees, shrubs, fruits, berries, and nuts, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to the address at the end of this tape. Okay, let's take a break. Your head must be reeling. So let's have a pop quiz. I'm serious. While you listen to a number from Jim Duke's herb album, several species of plants are going to appear on the screen. See how many of them you can identify. The correct answers will appear at the end of the test.
White man say to the red man, is this the promised land? Groundnuts and wild rice and turkey in the hand. Groundnuts and wild rice and turkey in the hand. White man say to the red man, just look what you have got. Wild rice and wild thyme and turkey in the pot. Wild rice and wild thyme and turkey in the pot.
say to the red man, I think I envy you. Wild rice and artichokes and ground nuts in the stew. Wild rice and artichokes and ground nuts in the stew. Red man say to the white man, do you really have to push red man and greener land and turkey to the bush? Red man and greener land and the turkey to the
Well, you got this one right, right? But how did you do with the rest? 1 was wood sorrel. 2, cleavers or goosegrass. 3, staghorn sumac. 4, cattails. 5, plantain. 6, spatterdock. 7, wild grapes. 8, duckweed. 9, evening primrose. 10, asparagus. Okay.
Well, it's time to put a wrap on this package. Jim Duke and I have enjoyed bringing you a page or two from the Useful Plant story. In our next video, Dr. Duke, your host, will introduce you to Father Nature's Pharmacy, a video catalog of some of the many proven herbal pharmaceuticals. So until then, keep your head down, your boots dry, and your mind open.
Some other valuable wild plant resources are the Audubon Society's Field Guide to North American Wildflowers, Houghton Mifflin's Field Guide to Edible Wild Plants by Lee Peterson, The Wild Harvest by Terry Domico from Hancock House, and Wildflowers of Indiana Woods by Runkle and Bull. Herb seeds and wild plant parts may be purchased from the Indiana Botanic Gardens in Hammond, Indiana, Paradise Farms, Summerlin, California, Putney Nursery in Putney, Vermont, and Van Borgendine's Babylon, New York. Dr. Duke's book, Living Liqueurs, is an excellent how-to on brewing homemade liqueurs.